Well, welcome along everybody to our very special pre-season special here on Racing to Win. It's been a bit of a wait since our last meeting on the 10th of July when the season closed in spectacular circumstances with Dennisship claiming the Trainers Premiership. And on tonight's program, we're going to review some of the highlights of last season and look ahead to what we believe is going to be a very exciting season coming up. Welcome along, boys. Brett and Clint.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Lots of rain around at the moment, which is not a good sign for the start of the season, but I'm sure it's going to be a cracking season again. We had some great highlights last year, and no doubt there'll be some then again this year. Yeah,
turnover figures again were very strong, reaching record heights again last season.
Well, they were, and they expect much of the same this term, I think. We've got commingling obviously going to be a big part of the season. Interesting to see how that'll eventuate and what the impact will be locally, but that's all to come.
Well, before we look to the future, and also we're going to get some predictions from you boys as well, which I'm looking forward to at the end of the show. Your predictions for the season.
Yeah, we'll see how good we are at the Nostradamus caper.
Yeah. Just getting that crystal ball polished up now as we speak. But of course, the big meeting in December is really what it's all about. I mean, there's many highlights in the season here in Hong Kong, but it's the December edition that's mostly spoken about. And last year, the first of the four highlight races of the day was won by Red Cadeau, the globe-trotting Red Cadeau, who was well handled by Gerard Mosse on the day.
Great horse, well travelled, obviously went to Dubai and ran a great race in the World Cup. Just fought back over Jaguar Male here in a terrific finish, and yeah, great result for him and Gerard Mosse as well, who will of course be riding here again in Hong Kong, but later on in the season.
He deserved that victory though, Red Cadeau, didn't he, after going close in so many races around the world. And obviously then we had Lord Canalova in the sprint, Darren.
This has been a very hard race for foreigners to try and win. The Australians were able to do it a few times, more than a decade ago, but yeah, Lord Canalova just treated these with contempt on the day for the unique riding style of Iwata.
Real revelation, this horse. Last season, wasn't he? Obviously, I think he still hasn't missed a place in his career, and went on to win the Yasuda as well.
Yep, and he'll be back to running the mile later in the year.
Mile.
We really look forward to him competing there. He's shown he can travel well.
Well, he might run under this horse, Ambitious Dragon, if he goes to the mile.
Well, as the season went on, there were some really good clashes between Glorious Days and Ambitious Dragon, but the one that really counted in December, the title went to the Dragon.
It did, and on his day, he is, for me, if they both run to their best, Ambitious Dragon's clearly better. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's just whether or not each trainer can get the horse on the day at their peak. And on that day, obviously, there was that scare going into the race that he might not run, but well, Tony Millard, obviously a very happy man. They nursed him through that little hiccup, and he came through to win the race and do the job well.
And Tony Millard has suggested that he summered very well Ambitious Dragon, so we look forward to his reappearance. And California Memory, two Hong Kong Cups in a row, Darren.
Yeah, well, Sirius Desagler was going to run favourite in the race, but was scratched a few days before, so that ensured that California Memory started a raging favourite and went in the history books for his back-to-back wins.
Yeah, I think he would have beaten Sirius even had that horse been in the race. California Memory that day, that was effortless, brilliant performance. And Tony Cruz is doing a good job at turning out to win two. It will be three if he can do it again this year.
Well, he has had some issues following that. Of course, the end of his season did taper off a little bit, but very interested to see how he's gone through the break and how he'll return.
Well, Matt Chadwick may be able to shed some light in that respect, because Clint did catch up with Matt at the pre-season trials.
Yeah, he's just come back into work. He's come back healthy and well. He's jumping around in himself, so we're all happy in the camp.
Obviously, Tony had such a fantastic season last year, him and yourself. What are you looking forward to this term? You were desperately close in the last couple of years, I think, in the championship, but what about yourself? What are you looking forward to in particular?
Well, hopefully, as I said, California's come back very well and happy in themselves, so hopefully we can pull off another cup win and hopefully just keep myself up there with the big boys and pull along and stay out of Stuart's room.
Well, you mentioned that. I mean, it's amazing how many winners you really had, given you spent a fair bit of time on the sidelines. You can't help but feel if you hadn't been on the sidelines so much, you might have been a threat. Taking that into account, if you think you can stay out of the stewards room a bit, do you reckon you're a chance in the title this year? I mean, if Tony can have a similar sort of season?
Well, it's very hard to say, but if Tony has a very good season this season again, there's no doubt if I do stay out of the room and keep out of trouble. So fingers crossed, really.
Yeah, pretty good point there. Like 57 winners last season, considering how many meetings he did spend on the sidelines.
It's a very good effort, no doubt about that. Just wonder whether or not he might be able to stick with perhaps Douglas and Zach over the concluding stages as the season goes on. But yeah, if he rides all those meetings that he missed, he'll give himself a chance.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's going to need Tony to do well because he's basically a stable rider for that yard, and he probably needs one or two more that he can get a bit of support from.
Well, last year's Derby was completely dominated by Richard Gibson, with all the talk in the months leading up to the big one. And on the day, Richard had the first and second favourites with the Akeba Feed and Gold Fun. Unfortunately, Mazzani was scratched on race morning. But this was a tough performance by the most expensive horse ever purchased for Hong Kong racing.
Some performance, wasn't it? He was basically over racing and 3 wide for half the trip and still came away to do the job. Well done to Richard Gibson. I thought Gold Fun's running a bit was great. Was it a vintage Derby year? This year will tell. I'm not convinced at the moment, Brett.
Well, I guess time will tell. Rainbow Chic at least came out and ran some very good races following the Derby last year, won a big race at the Valley. So it'll be interesting to see what that crop of 4-year-olds can do now.
Yeah, well, because of the ratings, a lot of the horses that were in the Derby are all going to have their chances in Class 1 races this season, or even a little bit lower. Well, let's hear from Richard Gibson about his plans for Akeba Feed in the upcoming season.
Akeba Feed's summered well, and if anything, he's grown a little bit. We're really pleased with his progress, and everything's been very straightforward. And he'll start turf work this week, and we hope to get him ready for the 1st of October.
That's great. And the rest of the stable, how the rest of the yard going? Last year you really kicked off with a bang. You got the yard ready in a similar vein, you think, this term?
Yeah, I think so. We had a lot of young horses last year which couldn't run too much. So the P horses, I think, will be more mature this year. And we've got a good crew ready for September and kicking off with a trial in a few minutes' time.
Well, that was a nice trial performance by Mazzani the other night.
Absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? He just picked them up very, very quickly, and we'll be excited to see him, no doubt.
I hope he can stay sound, because if he can, I think he might be the best of the whole trio. That obviously didn't run in the Derby for Richard, but he might be the best of the lot.
Well, quite possibly. I think that trial was certainly indicated his well-being at the moment. Well, one of the real success stories of the previous season was Tommy Berry, the Sydney-based jockey who was able to win the Golden Slipper and also the Doncaster, and then he flew to Hong Kong to pick up the ride, his first ride in Hong Kong, on Military Attack, winning the QE2 Cup.
Yeah, we just spoke about Akeba Feed. He, of course, went on to go into this race as well and was just perhaps a little bit outclassed, but Military Attack, outstanding ladder season for him. Clint, of course, following that, he went overseas and demolished a field over in Singapore.
Well, he's the new star on the scene, isn't he? Military Attack, and let's just hope we'll hear from John Moore shortly regarding him. But you know, he's the real deal. He went to Singapore and he proved that.
He's always been a very, very good horse. He's always had that touch of brilliance, but it's ever since they've been able to ride in that little closer that we've seen the best of him.
Well, the Champions Mile this year, Dan Excel was well ridden by Wei Shen Ma Wing. He basically was in the box seat all of the way, and he was able to just edge out the leader, Helene Spirit, in well, I don't think that'll go down as one of the great champion miles.
No, but what's interesting with that Champions Mile, sorry, Brett, is that it's often run on that day, and we've had real leaders tracks often throughout there, haven't we? And it was that case again this year.
Dan Excel went to Singapore and ran well, but he's a good, honest horse, a real tradesman, but just Military Attack really had the class edge on him there.
Yeah, I thought his performance in Singapore was brilliant. Military Attack, there was a real buzz in the parade ring that night, and a lot of horses were really losing the plot, but Military Attack was clearly the most calm horse in the parade.
Absolutely, and there's a good run from Dan Excel, holding down a minor spot, but as I mentioned before, the key to this guy's success, he's always been a very good horse, he's always had a good turn of foot and been brilliant, but just being able to get him that closer in the run and get him to settle was the defining factor of him last season.
Yeah, I mean, he did that initially with Zach Purton, who now rides him, and he's sort of unlocked that key to him, and I think they'll both have a lot of success this season.
Yeah, Zach Purton's second success on foreign soil on a Hong Kong trained runner. Well, let's see what John Moore's plans are for the season with Military Attack.
Well, so far he's just done, light work. Just had one gallop so far. His first run will be around about the 23rd of October, I think it is, which will be his first start. Prior to that, we'll probably get 2 trials into him, maybe one over 1,000 and then maybe a mile trial. He's done very well, put on, again, nice weight. I'm looking forward to get him started up because we know he's the real deal. And after Singapore, he's rated one of the better horses on the planet.
Also, we know you go and do a bit of travelling in the off-season looking for horses. Your imports this year, anything in special sort of to keep an eye out for?
Well, it hasn't. The shopping's been, quite tough, but we came away with good old boy Lukey, Group 2 winner. And he showed, a nice heart when I was over there and watched him. Did the job really well for Mr. Cheng Chung Fai, which is Zidane and Designs on Rome. And we also bought a horse called Vanderneer off Hannon. He's a tough customer. He's been put through the ringer a bit, but we decided to take a chance on him. He's a good looker. And I think that if I can get him to produce his best like Hannon did as earlier on, then I think he's probably a pretty astute sort of purchase.
You mentioned Designs on Rome as well. I mean, you must have been delighted with the way he finished off last term, and he looks a real big chance for the Derby this year.
Well, if I was doing an early market, maybe William Hill or somebody might have him early favourite. But he looks a horse with a huge future. He's done everything right. He's only had 1 gallop so far. No rush because we're looking at the Derby, as you know, which is a long way off. His first run will probably be will be in late October again, and we'll just let him find his feet and he'll probably have 3 runs, maybe 4 leading up to the Derby, and just nurse him through and hope he can, when the day comes, he'll be peaking and he can do the job.
Yeah, John Moore's really led the way in recent seasons with the spending and doing the right spending in Europe for his imports here in Hong Kong.
Very exciting horse, Designs on Rome, no doubt about that, just on what little we saw of him last season.
Yeah, and John will be happy with that rule that was brought in at the end of last season as well, which might extend his training career if he can finish near the top of the table.
Yes, if he can meet the requirements, which on present form won't be an issue. Also that night in Singapore, well, the other highlight, of course, was the Chris Flyer sprint and the brilliant performance by Lucky 9. Unfortunately, a bit of an incident there at the 200 metres not involving him, but this is a great ride by Preble. He got him out of the gate brilliantly, got him into the box seat, and that's what won him the race.
Yeah, and this is what Lucky 9 can do. As we know, I mean, once he was in that position, they weren't going to beat him, Brett. And,
Absolutely.
He's a class act.
He is. I still think his best distance is 1,400 metres. So, when he was in that position, as you say, over the 1,200 there at Kranji and just charged away, it was great to see. A big night, obviously, for Hong Kong. And Lucky 9 is now headed towards Australia for the Manikato first.
Yeah, it's a race that Casper Found's had a bit of success in. He won there with Green Birdie, now he's won with Lucky 9, so I'm sure he'll be looking to go back again.
Yeah, so he's leaving Hong Kong on the 23rd of September, so still a few more weeks to go.
Yeah, going towards the Manikato and then to the Patinack. So it'll be very interesting to see how Lucky 9 can perform.
It was warm that night in Singapore and a lot of horses were losing the plot. I don't know if you really wanted to be on him before the start. He was really boiling over. So was his jockey.
Yeah, and there was plenty of noise down in the paddock as he left as well, which certainly stirred him up. But he handled it well, and I'm sure spring down in Oz will be nice and comfortable for him.
We're going to our first break on tonight's program, and when we return, we're going to hear from some of the leading jockeys and trainers about some of the upcoming highlights this season.